Tennessee comes in pretty well in the SEC post-spring power rankings per CBS Sports, but there's one team that comes in ahead of Tennessee that I'm not too sure about. What is that team, and where should Tennessee be ranked? That and more. It's your Wednesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Vols, your Wednesday edition. I'm your host, Eric Kane. Appreciate you for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. Shout out to Monopoly Go. You can get in the game and join your friends. You can click and download Monopoly Go today by going to monopolygo.com or downloading the app in the App Store and Google Play for absolutely free. Got a big show coming up here today. CBS post-spring power rankings. What does that look like, 1 through 16, and where does Tennessee fall in there? And who's the team ahead of Tennessee that I'm not sure I agree with? That's coming up in a matter of seconds. We've got a couple questions for the everydayers, and I didn't do a traditional mailbag show this week because if you're watching on YouTube, of course, you can see I'm still not in my home studio. It's pretty white behind me, but those are blinds, and if you open those blinds, you can literally, I'm just a couple yards away from the ocean, which is pretty awesome. So ending my trip, went down and covered Tennessee at Gainesville, Tennessee at Florida in baseball. And then I came down here to see some family and spend a couple of days, but heading to Nashville for Tennessee and the Commodores. But anyway, that's coming up later in the week. But I will be back home, and I will be back in my home studio tomorrow. So I didn't have a traditional Tuesday show for mailbag, but I did take a couple of your questions. We're going to answer those in segment number 2, and then we'll have Josh Ward for a little Ward Wednesday action. That is coming up in segment number 3. So let's get into it. CBS Sports post-spring practice power rankings. No surprise, Georgia is up there at the top, but it's pretty highly contested. And I think that you talk about tiers in the Southeastern Conference this year. I think Georgia and Texas are probably in a tier of their own. And for the first time in quite some time, I don't think Alabama is in that tier. And I think Alabama is a good football team. Of course, we talked about it on one of the shows this week. I get confused. But, Nick Saban built this roster. Nick Saban, has this roster that can compete for national championships. And you just look up and down at the roster in terms of the player personnel, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But Georgia and Florida, Georgia and Texas are really, really good teams. Of course, Texas and Alabama, both in the college football playoffs last year, but Georgia, arguably the best team in the country, did not make it. So Georgia comes in at number 1 atop these SEC post-spring power rankings. Texas is at number 2. Alabama does not even get the number 3 spot. Ole Miss gets the 3 spot. Alabama is the 4th. Missouri's the 5th. And then Tennessee is in 6th. If I were to change some things, I would probably flip-flop Tennessee and Missouri. However, I do understand it. Here's what they say about Tennessee, and I'll get into that rationale against Tennessee and Missouri here in a second. This is what they say about Tennessee. It's Nico time in Tennessee. After sitting behind Joe Milton for the majority of his freshman season and winning Citrus Bowl MVP honors in his first career start, Nico Iamaleava is gliding into the 2024 season as Tennessee's unquestioned starter at quarterback. An experienced offensive line that returns 3 starters, a backfield paced by Dylan Sampson, and wide receiver corps featuring 6 players with at least 3 years of collegiate experience will help him overcome early growing pains. Keep an eye on Tennessee's defense. It's quietly gotten better every year under Josh Heupel, with a deep rotation along the line and edge rusher like James Pierce Jr. wreaking havoc in opposing backfields. This group might take the biggest leap this year yet. End quote. That is from CBS Sports. So Tennessee comes in there at number 6. Missouri is in there at number 5. Missouri, of course, coming off a 10-win season. Missouri has the dynamic duo of quarterback Brady Cook, wide receiver Luther Burden. You do lose fantastic All-American walk-on running back Cody Schrader, and he's gone. But you bring back a lot of kind of what got you to that 10-win season, that 10-win plateau a season ago. But what else do you have? You are having to replace a lot of guys on the line of scrimmage. You're trying to get immediate production from guys like 5-star freshman defensive lineman Williams Waneri, who Tennessee was very much in on that one earlier in this cycle, earlier in the 2024 cycle. So there's some expectations there for Missouri in order to get back to the 10-win plateau where it was a season ago. Since you have that proven connection, since you have that proven 1-2 punch in Brady Cook and Luther Burden, I kind of understand that offensive pop being ranked in these power rankings post-spring ahead of Tennessee, because though Nico Iamaleava and everybody thinks the world of him and the expectations are there, and you like a lot about Mike Matthews, and Dante Thornton looks better and better, and Brew McCoy's going to come back healthier and stronger, and Squirrel White, you've seen the dynamic 1-2 punch of Cook and Burden, whereas for Tennessee, you haven't seen that connection yet. So I almost kind of understand that. But I would probably, from a bigger picture, they referenced Tennessee's defensive line, about how the defense in total has been getting better and better under Josh Heupel and Tim Banks, knowing that they bring back a ton of experience, albeit not very deep along the offensive line. I would probably flip Tennessee and Missouri, but I do understand having Missouri a spot ahead of Tennessee because you're coming off a 10-win season, and you do have that 1-2 punch of some superstars on the offensive end. So I do get it, even though you are losing a really, really talented running back in Cody Schrader. So anyway, you've got Georgia at 1, Texas at 2. Ole Miss is number 3 in front of Alabama. And, of course, Ole Miss, a really, really good team. A really good coach in Lane Kiffin. You can say what you want about Lane Kiffin, and that's fine, but he's a good coach in this league, and he completely understands kind of how to coach in this era. Coming in a spot ahead of Alabama at number 3, and it's going to be boom or bust. Of course, going all in on the transfer portal and trying to see if some of those guys can pan out. I'll be super intrigued to see if Ole Miss can win 11 games, or if Ole Miss will be struggling to get to 9 wins, or really, really, really underperform and get 8 wins. I think that they're too talented to have 8 or 9, so we'll see what happens. 4, again, Missouri's at 5. Tennessee's at 6. LSU's at number 7, replacing a Heisman Trophy winner quarterback, and obviously has got to get better on the defensive side of the football, but they do have a good starting point in Garrett Nussmeier. He's give him credit, too. I mean, in this day and age, I'm surprised he didn't go somewhere and try to play. He has 1 start for LSU in 3 years, but he's a really, really good player, and he's good in that system as well. That's where LSU is at number 7. Oklahoma's at number 8. Intriguing, too, because some big-time question marks breaking in a new quarterback. We know about Jackson Arnold. But also, according to CBS Sports right here, replacing 5 offensive linemen with starting experience. Early in the season, with Tennessee coming to town, that could be a headache, and that's something to pay attention to for Oklahoma. Kentucky at 9, A&M at 10, under first-year head coach Mike Elko. Florida at 11, Auburn at 12. South Carolina and the Fighting Shane Beamers there at number 13. Arkansas with Sam Pittman coaching for his life at 14. Mississippi State under first-year head coach Jeff Levy starting over there is at number 15. And, of course, Clark Lee is at number 16 and dead last at Vanderbilt. And, of course, he is coaching for his life. I'm surprised a little bit that Oklahoma's so low. But now that I kind of look at it, maybe I would have flip-flopped LSU and Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's roster's more in win-now mode compared to LSU, though there's a ton of talent there. And plus, both teams breaking in new quarterbacks, but, I mean, LSU's replacing a Heisman Trophy winner. Kentucky there at number 9, maybe it's too steep. But then again, I look at the teams behind Kentucky. It's in a much better position right now than A&M is, than Florida is, than Auburn is, than South Carolina is, than Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt. So when you look at it like that, it's no surprise. But Tennessee comes in at number 6. Is that too high, too low, or just about right? I would have Tennessee at 5, in my opinion, above Missouri, but I certainly understand the rationale here from CBS Sports with returners on that offensive side that won 10 games a year, Luther Burden and Brady Cook. All right, when we come back, I'll get into some of the listener questions from you everydayers. Can't thank you enough for that, and that's what you had to look forward to when we come back here on this Wednesday show as we continue on here with Locked On Vols. Passion, drive, patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof rack, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money is back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive today at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back into your Wednesday edition of Locked On Vols. I am Eric Kane. Appreciate you guys for being here. We'll have Josh Ward for a little Ward Wednesday coming up here in segment number 3. But first, I wanted to get into some of your questions. Didn't have a traditional Twitter Tuesday show. Didn't have a traditional mailbag show on Tuesday again because I'm on the road. Now it's pre-recording a little bit. But some of you every day are sending in a couple questions. I won't get to all of them, but I do want to hit on about 2 of them if that is okay. The first one I want to hit on comes from Trevor. And Trevor says, simply, who was the all Tony Vitello baseball team? And that is a really good question. And I'm not going to answer it. That's an off-season topic, in my opinion, for July when this season is over with, because I want to put some guys on this year's team, but I want to see how it finishes, right? But what I can tell you is there's more players than roster spots, if you will. I think we can all kind of agree that Jordan Beck, Drew Gilbert are on this list for Tony Vitello. I think we can agree that Evan Russell is on this list for Tennessee. I think we can agree that former pitchers, of course, Chase Dollander and the success that he had for Tennessee and in regular season in 2022, and then of course the role that he played in helping get to Omaha, and Chase Burns and helping Tennessee get to Omaha. But do we have a spot for Chase Burns because he left the program and he's playing for Wake Forest and potentially would be very NCAA-ish to do this? Could put Wake Forest in position Wake Forest with Tennessee in regional play. I know that the record's improved a little bit, but they were on pace to be a 2 seed a couple of weeks ago. We'll have to track that as we continue to get on towards regional play. But does Chase Burns have a spot? Because Tennessee does not get to Omaha last year without Chase Burns. I mean, that's just fact. But again, he leaves the program. So how do we view that? So that's a conversation. Luke Lipsy has meant so much to this program, my co-host on the Porch Podcast over at volquest.com. He meant so much to this program and played such a key role in rebuilding, what was, here at one point in time, but it had just been stagnant. Chad Dallas on the mound. Will Heflin did so much, but I can go ahead and tell you for certain, and let's revisit this in July because I think this is a really, really good conversation. But I can tell you for certain, Drew Gilbert, Jordan Beck, Jake Rucker at third base is going to be on this list. Trey Lipscomb as well, though, but Trey Lipscomb had 1 year. He was a one-year wonder, but boy, was that 1 year fantastic. Does Jared Dickey come in anywhere to play? Probably not because he was injury-plagued. But again, Jordan Beck, Drew Gilbert, Jake Rucker, Chad Dallas, Chase Dollander. Does Max Ferguson make this cut? I don't know. And then there's going to be some guys that are on the current team for sure. I mean, Drew Beam's going to be on that. Hard not to have Semo and Blake Burke on that list. You know what I'm saying? Hard not to have a guy like Kirby Cannell, even though when it's all said and done, he's not going to have one of the most impressive numbers, but he's been here and played a role in every single one of these teams. So, great question. I want to revisit it back in July, though, because I want to let this season play out. But a really, really good question there, Trevor, because it's tough because there's been so many great guys here under Tony Vitello. Another question I want to hit on here. This is from Matt. I'm going to be that guy that has a Twitter Tuesday question about the punter in May. That's what the offseason's for. You're taking up 3 or 4 minutes of this podcast in the month of May, and the content is hard to come by in the month of May. So, Matt, I thank you. Do you ever see a scenario in which we run some type of fake punt package with Jackson Ross? I know he has a cannon of a leg and can flip the field, but we've heard about the kind of athlete that he is, being pretty fast, and Ross himself saying he has the 3rd strongest arm on the team. It just feels like it would be kind of a waste if we never utilize that. Absolutely. In my opinion, I do believe that Jackson Ross will be a part of some type of fake punt here at Tennessee when it's all said and done. Why? Well, because of a lot of the reasons that you just mentioned. He is a former Australian rugby player. Aussie baller. It's different. It's not traditional rugby. It's more Australian football. There's different rules. I remember I wrote the impact analysis when Tennessee got him, and I went and educated myself a lot about where they come. But he comes from the pro. He did that, and then he took part in the Pro Kick Academy, which has turned out tons and tons of kicking talent in the United States, and they're well represented in the National Football League as well. More punters than place kickers, but my point is he comes from a really good background. And remember, when he arrived at Tennessee, he was 22 years old. And he is going to want to punt in the National Football League one day for sure. But also, he wants to get a college education. He wants to get that degree no matter what. So he's going to be here he redshirted in 2022. He was a freshman last year. So at least 3 more seasons, in my opinion. 2 for sure, at least 3 more seasons. That is a long time to run punts, and not even attempt a fake. So yes, I do believe at some point in time that they're going to run a fake punt. And it just works out because he is not your typical punter. He is a guy that seeks out contact. He is a bigger framed guy. He's an athlete that can not only punt with both legs, but he can throw. He's quick. Tennessee could do a number of different maneuvers with him. They could snap the ball to him, let him do a rugby style, and just take off and run. They could snap the ball to him, let him do a rugby style, and then throw, backside on a fake punt pass. I mean, I think they can do a lot of different stuff with him. So before his time is up, absolutely, I think Tennessee's going to run some type of fake punt with Jackson Ross because he is more than just your traditional punter. I think that he can do that, and I think that they can find some success with that. Now, will that be something they do routinely? No, because a fake punt is not something you run routinely. If you ran it routinely, then they would be on the lookout for it and they would know how to defend it. You put it on tape one time, they're going to practice trying to defend it. But if you put it on tape one time in week 2 and they don't pull it out again until the bowl game or the playoffs, well, a lot of time has passed. Or the next season, a lot of time has passed. So yeah, to answer your question, I do think that, and I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be something really, really cool that we talk about for weeks upon weeks after it happens. We'll see when it happens, but I do think it will happen. Last thing I want to do before we get into Josh Ward, Tennessee baseball ranked number 1 in the country for the first time since 2022, where they spent not the entire season, but pretty much almost the entire season as the number 1 ranked team in the country. And that's just the second time in program history that this program has ever been ranked number 1. Tennessee's ranked number 1 in D1 baseball poll, which is the poll that I follow. When I reference rankings, that's the poll that I follow, VolQuest.com, and that's the poll that ESPN and ESPN's broadcast of the SEC Network and the SEC Network Plus, those rankings reflected on the broadcast are from D1 baseball. So Tennessee's number 1 in the country per D1 baseball, per Perfect Game, per Baseball America, per the National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association, and per USA Today Coaches Poll. Tennessee swept the board. Tennessee's number 1 in the country in all 5 major polls, yet it is number 2 in the SEC East. It is tied for second in the outright SEC standings, a game back of Kentucky, tied with Arkansas. So that just goes to show you how wild this league is and how crazy that this league is and how competitive and how good that this league is. You can be number 2 in the SEC East, yet be number 1 ranked team in the country. It's wild, but that's where Tennessee baseball is right now. We'll see what Tennessee baseball does on the road again at Vanderbilt. That is coming up this weekend. I'll have your coverage over at VolQuest.com. Okay, so we're going to end our show here with a little Josh Ward. He's coming up next as we continue on with a Ward Wednesday edition of Locked On Vols. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying, flag on the play. You've already talked about this, but there is just so much good stuff in this game. Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends with timed tournaments where you can work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you can unlock, and there's so much you can get, such as unique stickers that you can trade with friends to complete big albums and big prizes. Cool new traveling pieces that you can travel the boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends and when you smash their buildings and heist their vaults. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench, download it for free today. It's on the Google Play Store and the Apple Store. Go on. It is free. It's the hit new mobile twist on the traditional Monopoly game that you can buy for free. You can get for free in the Google Play Store and the Apple Store today. Also want to talk to you about our friends over at Yahoo Finance. Wouldn't it be great if you can invest everything you need, if you can invest, you can see all your investment and retirement accounts in one place. With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into a hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. Let's get straight to the point. You want to grow your portfolio to deal with the rising cost of inflations, to pay off your debt and your mortgage, pretty much anything standing in the way of your financial freedom, right? With Yahoo Finance, you can get access to the news, data, and tools that you need in order to reach that financial freedom. Because when it comes to financial future, you think you've done it all. You've saved, you've researched, you've invested all that you can. Now, you need to take those investments to the next level by using what every financial great uses, and that's Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor, and Yahoo Finance can help you as well. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For a comprehensive financial analysis and breakdown, visit the brand behind every great investor. That is at yahoofinance.com. The number one financial destination, that is yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. More to come as we continue on with Word Wednesday here on this edition of Locked On Vols. Hey, Josh, big news of the week. Tennessee baseball is number one in the country. Second time in program history, Tennessee's been ranked number one. Of course, in 2022, Tennessee was a mainstay atop the polls, but all 5 national polls, Tennessee's number one, number 2 in the SEC East, but Tony Vitello's team just keeps on getting better, and it's getting towards the end of the season now. Only 2 regular season series remaining before the tournament.
Yeah, Tennessee has done everything that I think we could have asked of the Vols to be in this position at this point, and I would say more than anybody realistically predicted after opening SEC play with a series loss to then see 7 straight and see Tennessee go through a conference that maybe down in some areas, like Florida is a disappointing team this season. We'll see with Vanderbilt this upcoming week. But it's still the SEC. It's still the best talent in the country. And we'll also see at some point what Tennessee can do against an Arkansas or Texas A&M. But what they slipped up against teams that Tennessee didn't in Kentucky and LSU this past weekend. So we can say, well, there's this with Tennessee's schedule, but we can say that with any other team. And Tennessee's record backs up the position that it's in. So the lineup and its strength, the way guys have stepped up on the mound when they've needed to this season. Eric, talking about what we would have predicted, I would not have predicted this kind of success with A.J. Russell's absence. And that is why there's so much credit that belongs in that locker room and with the coaching staff for what they have, again, put together with this team.
Yeah, I mean, it helps when you have one of the best offenses in the country. And sure, it was slumping for about a week, but it broke out of that with an 11-run 6th inning. It just kind of shows you how dangerous this lineup can be. But you and I are baseball guys. We watch the Braves 162, and I feel like so often, even at this level, I get so caught up in, okay, there's 3 starters. There's back into the bullpen guys. There's a quote-unquote closer maybe, but not too many in college games. But this year, and why Tennessee, I feel like, has been able to make it work, it's not the traditional sense of your staff. It's you got to get 27 outs. You might have an opener out there for 6 to 8 outs, and then long relief guy. You've seen that on Fridays and Sundays with A.J. Causey and Nate Snead. I mean, Kirby Cannell's done pretty much everything for this team. So is Aaron Combs. The staff, though you're missing a lot of the name power and recognition of a Dolander and a Burns and Blake Tidwell, some of these other guys, Cannon Sewell, it's been really good to see it kind of come together and not just work, but flourish this year.
Yeah, it's kind of a volume conversation, the number of players that have been able to step up on the mound for Tennessee. And again, they'd love to have A.J. Russell. He is an important part of the conversation. What he can provide, can he provide something here in the next few weeks as they get ready for the postseason? That is still an important part of the conversation because last year, Tennessee was able to make it to Omaha and have success there in a game thanks to a player like Chase Burns, who is a projected high draft pick. So those kinds of players still matter, but players stepping up in their roles and what they've been asked to do, a little bit of shuffling in the rotation as they've tried to figure things out as they had to without A.J. Russell, who would have just been a great option as the Friday guy, but he wasn't there. So they had to tinker a little bit along the way. That, again, comes back to, I think, the trust in the coaching staff, the belief the players have in the decisions that they will make. And then I also give credit to players for accepting whatever they're asked to do, it again helps when you have a lineup that is able to go out there and mash and put up a bunch of runs. A funny thing about the game of baseball, there is no clock. You're not out of time until you're out of opportunities. So in baseball with this lineup, you can get up to a great lead, and that puts pressure on the other team. Or let's say you fall behind and you have some work to do in the middle of a game. This offense will always give Tennessee an opportunity to win the game. But they know that at some point in the postseason, the lineup's not going to be there, and they're going to need guys to step up, pitchers to step up and help lead the way. And at some point, we'll see if Tennessee can do that.
I think one of the more fun exercises Tennessee fans have done the last couple of weeks and really the last couple of years, and you take it from Tyler and Will's show, the start bench cut. And I think it's an even a fun question to ask this week because Tennessee's back to being number one in the country. If you could start one, bench one, cut one, or if you had to have one of Tennessee's coaches over all the others, it's a pretty tough decision. I mean, Josh Heupel's doing so well in football. Rick Barnes is Rick Barnes. Kim Caldwell's not in this conversation yet, but there's a lot of excitement there. And then you have Tony Vitello, who's never won a national championship, but has been in the College World Series 2 of the last 3 years and has shown how good he is. If you were to start one, bench one, cut one, how would you kind of do those 4 coaches I just mentioned?
Man, that is impossible.
Tough. Yeah.
So are we, with your question, are you taking away the importance of football because football is the one that you can't afford to have drop off, or you're just going with what they've done in their respective sports, accomplishments, talent, future? If you're going that route, I would start Rick Barnes. He just won another SEC championship for Tennessee, a regular season outright title, which just doesn't happen often. They had their tied for best performance in the NCAA tournament, second time ever that they've gotten to the Elite Eight as a program. So with everything he's done and the position he might put Tennessee in again next year, I'd start him. They've been to Omaha multiple times, and they're ranked number 1 in the country right now. So I'd go start Rick Barnes, bench Tony Vitello, cut Josh Heupel, but that is an unfair cut. And if we're weighting things with football, then it would be a different order. But if Josh Heupel's in the cut position, as he also has a projected, let's say, top 15 team in the country and a playoff contender, that says more about where Tennessee athletics is right now, not anything negative toward Josh Heupel and Tennessee football, because Heupel has done everything I've asked of him and more with the position he's in entering his 4th season as Tennessee's head coach.
So what you're saying is Tennessee should fire Josh Heupel.
By the way, do you know how difficult it is for me to cut a Josh? I'm on Team Josh, so I would start him for just that purpose. But longevity and recent championship success for Rick Barnes, the number 1 position and a chance again. I think a great chance. They're going to host in a regional and probably host in a super regional, and that gives you an advantage in trying to get back to another College World Series. Don't take that for granted.
You got some good companies with Josh's, also with some Wards, John Ward. Logan Ward brings that name down a smidge, but
everything has to be weighted in different areas, so we understand that.
Big Orange Caravan wrapped up. They went to a couple cities last week across the state of Tennessee. Anything notable from Danny White, Josh Heupel, Rick Barnes, or Kim Caldwell? It feels like, everybody loves new. I get that, but it feels like Kim Caldwell is really making a lot of noise for herself, and people are excited about the difference in the pace of play and what we're going to see over there at the Food City Center this year.
Yeah, a number of things. One can be related to the teams. I think more of what I see is just the status of Tennessee athletics, which goes to this conversation. So when they were in Nashville, we saw Rick Barnes and Josh Heupel kind of take some fun jabs at each other, having some fun on the radio on the zone. We've seen Danny White talk up what's happening with Tennessee athletics. They were able to celebrate the sellout of the season tickets. And then with Kim Caldwell, I don't think it's as much about what she might be saying as much as what others are saying about her. And that will create expectations. But when Danny White calls her a rising star in the sport and talks up what she's going to be able to do for Lady Vols basketball, I think that has helped generate interest for fans to say, okay, I want to see what she's able to do. I want to learn a little bit more about the transfers she's able to bring in and what the roster might look like right away, what their style is going to be. With Josh Heupel and Tennessee football, I think it's a combination of the Nico excitement is there. I think it's the excitement around the defensive line and that side of the ball, how they could be better and what this team can do in a 12-team playoff. So there's a different storyline with each program because they're all playing for something or trying to accomplish something that matters for fans. With Rick Barnes, of course, it's the roster switch. They have Sakai Ziegler and Jemai Mashak to help lead the way. But there are new players coming in to replace guys who did a lot for Tennessee. But the confidence that I see is very high from Tennessee fans in what Rick Barnes will be able to do. And once we get into the season, I'm sure there'll be some hesitation on what's going to happen in March. But the fact that they made a run to the Elite Eight, the fact that they won an SEC regular season title this past year has created a lot of goodwill and a lot of confidence with Tennessee fans looking at Rick Barnes and his program.
Out the door, Josh, Tennessee, of course, has 3 open slots left. We'll see if they fill them all, if they'll go and get some guys to reclassify. But the big fish left in the transfer portal at Tennessee, and many others are after, is Chaz Lanier, North Florida. Went through the NBA draft process, did not receive an invite to the Combine, but some guys backed out, so he's going to the G League Combine. What's the significance of that, and will that have any updated timeline? Will that update the timeline at all for if he decides to, whatever he's going to do, pursue the professional route or choose between Tennessee or another school?
Yeah, well, the Chaz Lanier timeline has looked different than when we were talking about Igor Milicic or Dubar or Felix Okpara. When they were making their visits, it was, okay, well, let's see if something happens in the next 24 or 48 hours. I think Igor took maybe a couple of days longer than expected. But anyway, he was essentially in the boat. It was a matter of it all getting worked out and him going public. It's different with Chaz. I think Tennessee is in a great position, feels very confident, and has made it clear to him that he is a big priority for what they're trying to do with next year's basketball program. He knows all of that. It's just that Chaz is on a different timeline. He is still exploring NBA opportunities, but right now it appears that's not a great one for him. Maybe things change with the G League camp, but I think Tennessee's in a good position for him to choose between Tennessee and the NBA. And until it gets closer, I guess, to being a done deal, there is that chance that another school can hop in. If you hop onto social media, you'll see plenty of Kentucky conversation. And if Kentucky's in the mix, then you never rule out the Wildcats. But I think Tennessee feels confident that it's the second choice along with the NBA as the 2 finalists for him. And if that's the case, I really like Tennessee's chances.
Josh, what is coming up for us on the show this week?
Yeah, monitoring, I guess, the portal, although the portal talk has died down. I think Josh Heupel loves that with the football side of things. So following what's happening with Tennessee baseball, how they close out this regular season, it is that time where fans, I think, are ready to fully hop on board and follow what this team can do, the overall conversation of Tennessee athletics, and then what might happen. And we still have a ways to go, but we're looking ahead to football season, what might happen this upcoming fall, Eric. That never stops. So we're doing that every day, 12 to 3 on Josh and Swain, available where you get your podcast. And we have the Josh and Swain newsletter every Friday morning, free into your inbox at joshandswain.com.
And, of course, that link as well to subscribe for free to the to the Josh and Swain newsletter is in the description of this show as well. Josh, as always, man, thanks so much.
You got it. Thank you, Eric.
All right, that is Josh Ward, a little segment we like to do here called Ward Wednesday each and every week right here on Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for being here. We'll be off the road, be back in the home studio on Thursday's show, so looking forward to that. But as always, thanks for making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every day. We will do it again tomorrow, guys. This is Locked On Vols.